when you go for a long period and come and go again and again. So they told me that, well, sir, we will accompany you. I said, nobody will accompany me. I will become more vulnerable if somebody is with me. There is another thing, in intelligence operations, you are the safest if you are alone. Because nobody can contradict you. Even if you are caught, it is your lies that will pass off. And if you are too smart and intelligent, you will be able to take them around and say, you do not know what the other man has said. Not that he is wrong, but he is different. So they can find the loopholes. But anyway, being a solo fighter, this is one. The other thing that has been this, which has been talked about me, is that there is a lot of surprise in the operations that I take. There is one, this thing in which I had been working is, I never repeat the same thing twice. I have never, I think, I started this racket when I was in my 20s, and now I'm 75. I have never done anything twice. I always liked doing everything differently, as if it's the first thing that I'm doing. Every operation, whether big or small, is the first of my life. So I do it with that spirit of a new child, as he starts it. Because then you do not depend and you do not have any assumptions. If I was lucky last time, what is the guarantee I'll be lucky this time? Validate your assumptions again. This is the task, small. If I have to, just because I made the biryani very good yesterday, there is no guarantee I will do it today as well. I will have to see that today the chicken may be more tender, or it may be more soft, or the rice may be better, it may not be this thing. Everything in life, every second of your life is the first second of the rest of your life. Every day in your life is the first day of the life that is left. Start it like that. So there is this thing, then the speed. And they say that, well, even if I walk very fast. If I speak, I speak very fast. I think that if you can, even if there has been an intelligence leak and your adversary has come to know about it, by the time he analyzes it, by the time he understands it, if you have got a speed, you have got to defeat him. By days or by hours or by minutes or seconds, he will get you, but he reached there only a couple of minutes later. You're out from there. So be fast to hit and to quit. So speed is
that is very relevant.
Don't get into too much of a procrastination and this thing like that. It's a speed. And secrecy, of course, is a part of this profession, but I always believe that you must have the ability, that is, you can articulate, you can mix, you can talk, but you will always be able to, the vital secrets must be kept this thing. So ultimate secrecy, which becomes a lifestyle over a period of time, that is, you remain a secretive person. So I think that are the things that in which the operational work that I have done, and which I feel that the others feel that there have been a certain amount of what they call is an S4, that there is a surprise, there is a speed, there is a secrecy, and then there is a solo. So it is the thing that.
Sir, you said something very, very interesting about speed, secrecy. So it actually evolves from psyche also, what kind of psyche a person has developed over a period of time. So would you like to share with us few events in your life which has actually helped you develop this psyche?
Well, there is no event which I manufactured or which I planned that it will affect my psyche. The things that you plan, they don't affect your psyche because you planned for it. Things that affect your psyche is something that happened and you had not planned for it, and then leave a mark. If I recall, I think, in a way, I had little troubled childhood. My father was an army officer, and I was born as a son after his this thing, the whole family. I was the son after a gap of 40 years. And I had a lot of boys, and then I had sisters. So I was very pampered. And my grandfather and my mother and everybody felt that So I became a very pampered child. To some extent, a spoiled child, as it happens. So my father sent me to a boarding school. So I went to a military school. I was about 8 years that time. So I left my home at the age of 8, and I went to, at that time it was known as King George's Royal Indian Military College, later became King George's School, and now it's known as a military school. That is when these things in my life, from the coziness of the house to the loneliness of a boarding house, I developed a saying. I used to weep for long hours after it was dark because you were sleeping alone. But soon I learned, in this life you have to be alone. And you have to find your pains, your pleasures, your comforts, it's all in you. So you have got, so I became a loner, which I remained and which suited my profession. But it also made me this thing that I am responsible for whatever I do. If I get beaten up by the other students, it is because I have not been able to manage them well. And if I got this thing like this, so that is the first event in my life, which when I see in the retrospect, that is, gave me this thing that if I have to do a thing, I have to do it alone. If I have got to be self-dependent. And everything that I do, I am responsible for. Everything that happens to me, nobody else is responsible for that except me, good or bad. I have got to bear the consequences. The second was that school had a very strange motto, which still is, they have not changed it. It's a very, very old school, the military school has made, it's got to still play the game. They used to think that, well, it's more important that, the students were brought there in very young age. They must learn to play the game and inculcate certain qualities which come through this type of game. And every child was allotted some game. So I was in the Chetwood house in that this thing, and then when the selection started for this thing, some people were taken for football and some for hockey and others. I was this thing for boxing.
Boxing.
It's a very interesting story. Anyway, school level, everybody plays, so I was also there. I was a reasonably good school-time boxer and everything. But he was also my house teacher and also the these things. He told me one day a story. He said, "Do you know why I selected you for the boxing?" This thing. He said, "You have got a very unique quality." I was, of course, at that, when you are very young at the age, nobody knows who will be tall, who will be short. So all are short of this thing only by small inches or half inches, something like that. So you don't have this thing. He said, that is, you never accepted a defeat. When you are beaten up, and you are beaten up, you will never come out of the ring. Even when you are bleeding, even when you are this thing, you will continue. Not that you were the best fighter, but you had great resilience. I will win the war, not because I'm the strongest, but I will not quit. I can wait, prepare myself, and wait for years and years. And he said, that is what I thought, that psychologically a boxer's quality, that is, you would stay in the ring up to the last round. Even when you have lost the rounds, even when you have been beaten up, even when you are bleeding. He said there were much better boys who could be this thing. But moment they got one or two of the jabs or something like that, etc., thereafter, they just wanted to quit. Or this thing like that. You kept on getting beaten up and things like that, but you stayed there. Over the period of time, you learned that trick, so probably you started winning also. It was a great this thing. And he said that, well, it's a quality, not good or bad. But remember that this is your strength. If you can hold in the face of adversity for a long time. That's why my tenures have been very long. I went to Northeast, I was there for 7 years. I went to Pakistan, I was there for 7 years. I can hold on. You can torture me for this thing like that, I cannot bear it. I can bear injustice for a long time without losing my this thing and others. So I think as a personal this thing, my becoming independent at a very young age and thereafter getting beaten up to understand that well, you can get beaten up, but you can still win.
So you took the right decision of actually.
No, I don't. There were circumstances.
Yes.
As I said, if you take a decision, it cannot affect your psyche. You know, if I decide to do something, I prepared myself. My mind, reasoning faculty has been involved. So it will not, this thing. What happens in life, that changes your psyche. So when I didn't go to this boarding school to change my psyche, but I suddenly realized that mother's comfort is not there. And they're all boys who are all, you know, particularly the boys, when they see a new person, they all are his enemies till they settle down. To begin with, you have to beat each other. And the one who comes the new one, he's the one who is beaten up by everyone. So we used to have a pyramid. Everybody will pounce on you.
Right.
So it's all right. That is a process of growing because after some time you become the senior. So, but you do not know that how it is going to affect you. But this thing that in this entire world, it's my strength, it is my resilience, it is my patience, it is my this thing. You have got the choice. You can go to the corner and cry. You can run around and go to the housemaster and say that I have been beaten up, and you will tell children not do that. But the next day, when you are going, somebody will put you on an elbow like that. Somebody else will this thing like that. That will keep on happening. You can't prevent the things that are happening to you. It is important in life what happens to you. What is more important is how do you respond to what happens to you. I think the nature or circumstances were preparing me, not for what happens to me, that is in the hands of others or the God, but it is preparing me for how will you respond when something happens to you like that.
So you want to say, sir, the decisions rather than being right needs to be circumstantial.
No, I don't think that is also my decision. It is not a binary thing. It is not a decision is right or decision is circumstantial. Number one, nobody takes a wrong decision. Whether it is right or wrong is known only after the event is over. So when you take it as right because you think it is right. Otherwise, you won't take it. Will you take a poison thinking that it's a poison? You think it is a sweet, somebody has given you a candy and you are having it. Turns out to be poison. At that time, the decision was right because that was the same way then. So it is wrong to say. Secondly, all decisions, whether right or wrong, has to take into consideration many factors. Circumstances is one of them. Now, if we are in this room and somebody comes inside with say one AK-47 or something like that, that sort of this thing like that, this is a particular setting. In this setting, you have got to take a decision. So you may say that, okay, you're taking out of it, this thing is the best thing, or that is, you're trying to see break the door and getting out of that and seeing that somebody can do, whatever is that. These are the circumstances. It cannot be the same if it is in the veranda. But there are 8 persons who are armed. It will not be the same if it is on the roadside, where you have got all this thing to take this thing and pull out your gun. So circumstances in all decisions, right or wrong is not the point. Circumstances or the setting is important. But when setting is not the only factor. There are many other factors which I said, what are your objectives, why are you taking this mission, why are you undergoing these things, they are all important. What is that you want to achieve, what are your resources, what are your this thing and others. But this question that whether it should be right or it should be circumstantial means that if it is circumstantial, it will not be right, and if it is right, then it will not be circumstantial. In this case, the right you are talking about more about the morality sense or the value-based sense. If you mean that the value-based sense, then if there is a conflict between what you want to do and what you should do.
Or have to do.
No, not have to do. What you should do, have to do is a different thing. what you want to do and what you should do. What you should do is your duty. What you want to do is your pleasure. Opt for the second. If the choice is between what you have to do and what you are forced to do, there is no choice. It is not a decision.
It is not a decision.
It is somebody else's decision. If you take out a gun and fire at me, it is your decision. That's all. I can at best say that, okay, I'll just laugh it off. Or I will start crying. No, that's all. That is the only decision I have. Decision is only when there are options. When there are compulsions, it is not a decision.
Interesting take. Another, sir, question or a set of questions which we have received from large number of students, basically because these are engineering students, technology students, about the future of war, future of terrorism, because now information has become a key. Cyber security has become a key. So how students are very keen on knowing.
Actually, you are very right. After the Second World War, and with the development of instruments of mass destruction, where there is a guaranteed extinction of the human descent from this planet, if the great wars really take place, we have gone into an era of the Clausewitzian type war through other means. Conventional wars are not only that they are not affordable, because the losses will be so much. If any major country is going to have a war, or if there are countries or the major countries who are going to involve with the nuclear weapons and others, it will be a total extinction. It is not the Hiroshima and Nagasaki anymore. They were hardly the weapons of any of these things of the potency that we have got today. That is one factor, that the wars have become unaffordable in terms of losses. But there is another more important factor, that they are increasingly becoming ineffective instruments of achieving your political and military objectives. There is no guarantee that a country with a bigger army, bigger resources, more of a technology, bigger soft power, international linkages, will be able to win the war. The great power like Soviet Union got defeated from the Mujahideens.
In Afghanistan.
Or the Americans could not cope with Vietnam. You know, in the asymmetrical warfare, I build up my army so that if your army is smaller, I'll be able to win over you. Now in today's conflicts, in case the conventional wars are not going to achieve your military and political objectives, then you don't fight wars only to kill people. They want to achieve something. They are being replaced by wars through other means. What did United States or what did the Western world or the world do when the Soviet forces moved into Afghanistan? There are many options. They could have gone to war against Soviet Union. They could have done the economic blockade and this thing of the economy. They would have taken the diplomatic this thing, and in the United Nations they would have sanctions against it. But it itself was a member of the Security Council, so that could not have been done. The people from the Islamic world, and asked them to start a jihad against the Soviet troops. And in that jihad, finally, they were bled and fatigued to that extent that the Soviet troops had to move. And Afghanistan came under the control of the Taliban government. Success of that distinct is that now we are getting into a fourth generation warfare. A fourth generation warfare will be a warfare against the invisible enemy. And in the war against the invisible enemy, man who will win will be that who can see the invisible enemy.
First.
That is why the intelligence has become the prime factor. If out of 130 crore people, you are able to find the terrorist who just look like you, dress like you, move like you, then probably you win. If you can't,
He wins.
probably you lose. This thing is that the covert warfare is increasingly becoming this thing. Now, in that, the whole thing goes. So, that is one thing. Second thing is the technology. The mobility of this thing has become global. While people operated within a limited geographical distance, now within seconds, probably, people can find this thing. And the communications. And they can maintain the secrecy of the communications because they can devise new and new methods of these things. There are mobile phones, or probably 50 years back when I joined this thing, well, there was no mobile phones, or there is nothing like that on the internet connectivity or the cyberspace you talked about. The whole domain, cyber is a frontierless domain. You can destroy the country's entire infrastructure. You can completely seize its economic activity, its banking activity, its power sector, its civil aviation sector, its communication sector. Everything you can seize it and put it to total halt. Even in addition to that, now we are in a stage of electronic warfare. In the electronic warfare, if the plane takes place, I can divert its direction if I know the course of this thing like that. Even the pilot will have no control over it. So, in case I can have a penetration into its into the code and this thing like that, because it's all being electronically managed. This is not so much of the jacksticks, even the ejection of the weapon systems. The communications and these things are even the signals it is getting is from the radars. Even that is the thing. If you can disturb it, change it, modulate it, or amend it, probably you can have this thing like that. So this is going to have an increasing role in the coming type of the conflicts, and that is why it becomes increasingly important that we are able to cope with these type of challenges.
So when we are talking about technology, emerging technology, I think the youngsters, the students are at the forefront of technology actually, trying to do large number of things. And now with India's impetus for innovation, which we are also championing in big way. Sir, whether any time in your operations, whether you have used any products which were developed or conceptualized by students, or actually they were the people who were driving that. Something like in movie Uri, they had shown that some drone was used by the NSA in that movie.
I don't know, the movies are movies, I don't know, comment on that. But I'll tell you one thing. Basically, in the intelligence domain, they have got their own technology, these things. They hunt for technologies. They try to find out what is available or who are the people. They try to get it through those sources, but do not make them as an integral part of the organization. So even when that technology is acquired, the people who are parting with that technology or with those equipment may not be knowing who is the actual user and why they are using it, why they want it. Whether they are going to use it as it is, or they will modify it, or it will be a part of some major component and others, and that is necessary for the secrecy of the organization. But as an NSA, my job is not actually, I am not an intelligence operator anymore. I gave up that profession long back. I have found, and I have been deeply impressed by the knowledge, by the vision, by the commitment, and the interest of our younger generation, their belief and faith in themselves. There was one group, there was one Indus group which came to me some time back, and they said, well, they want to distinguish their own satellite, I think the Google, they had started a competition, international competition.
Yes.
You know about that?
Yes.
This thing like that? And they said that then they qualified, and thereafter they were shortlisted, and there were only 10 left. And they continued with that, and they said whether we can help them a bit. I tried to this thing, but there are certain complications, and they also developed some complications of their own. But still, they did very well. Similarly, with IIT Madras, I think we had this thing, and then I told the DRDO because we found that they were making some very good this thing, which as drones in the left-wing extremist areas, we found it very useful. So I do feel that there is a promise. I do not know in what way the intelligence agencies can make use of them, but in the security field, in the defense, in the DRDO, in the other areas, I think we are making substantial use of them, and we should continue to make use of them.
So just we were talking about Uri and those. Have you seen that movie, sir? And whether you break cell phones, that's what it has always shown in the movie.
More important thing is this, no, I have not seen Uri. I have not seen Uri. Well, I was little this thing. But I have never gone to this thing after I joined the IB, or I joined the intelligence career. That is long back.
So
I have never gone to a theatre or to a movie theatre or to any this thing. Sometimes maybe that with my wife on the television I might have seen some of the movies, but then I've never been to a mall. So, and naturally I don't have any social lives because I'm not supposed to be too visible, and by the time I got into a life which was open life, it was too late for everything. But I have not, and I don't break this thing. But more important point is that in today's security domain, communications are the easiest to infiltrate and penetrate, to compromise you. And communications are the one which is the biggest asset which can give you the speed and others. I can only tell you one small secret. I don't use mobiles. I don't have any mobile. I manage without that. Will people make this thing that will? How do I manage without that? But then, I know it is unsafe. Just I don't use computer. I mean, it's computer for internet. I use computer as a typewriter. I use computer as a this thing like that. But I don't maintain any these things with the. I don't correspond with anyone on computers.
So, sir, you said you don't use cell phones, you don't use computers for in big way in that sense.
For communication.
For communication. But there are large number of your profiles on social media and on Twitter. So, sir, what's your take? And large number of ideas are propagated as your ideas on many of these platforms.
I have got no social media account. I never had one till today. All of them are either well-wishers or fake or anything. But I think I would like to tell my audience that is, please don't mistake everything that goes by Ajit Doval's Facebook account or Twitter account and others. I have none. And maybe that someday I may have it after I'm not doing anything in the government or something. But I don't have any, and I have got to know these things.
So, but sir, you write articles, you write blogs, or you don't write. So how many students would like to know how they can listen to your views on a particular topic?
You know, there was a period. I retired as the chief of IB in 2005. And then I established a think tank which is known as the Vivekananda International Foundation. Until 2014, I got this thing like that. I started it from a scratch, and then it was this thing in Chanakapuri now. And during that period, I wrote something. And during that period, I also gave some interviews. And I also delivered some talks. That was this interregnum that I had. Except that there is no authentic these things about what I have said. Probably your channel as an NSA, I don't remember, maybe once or twice. In the last 5 years, this is the only one that I'm coming in public again. I do not know, maybe sometime else, maybe small event. But there has been no this thing, and therefore all the social media and other types, it is not this thing. Now, at this point of time, I don't think my talking and knowing my views are relevant at all. It is the government of India's views. And when the government of India's views, I'm part of it. So it is, I contribute my bit, but there are many like me who contribute, and there is a decision is taken by the government. And what is communicated to the country is the decision of the government. And it is the decision of the Prime Minister Modi in most of the cases, since I am his advisor. So as a country's national security advisor and as a advisor, thing like that, I may advise him, but the decisions and this thing is of the Prime Minister, and it is the Prime Minister's ideas which come before the public and should come before the public, and that is the official position. My own views don't really matter.
So, sir, coming to the last question, what you will advise our youngsters out there who will be watching this interaction with a lot of enthusiasm about how to handle their future and how to actually make India more safe and a secure place to live?
You know, I think that our youth is so well informed and our youth is so highly motivated. That is, I do not have to give them too much tips about the knowledge inputs. Probably they browse through this thing, that they all know where are the opportunities, what are the suitable, this is what are the openings. But I tell them something about their attitudes that can make life very happy. You have got, we all have an identity. Smaller the identity, smaller the man. Grow in your identity. I have got an identity, I am Ajit Doval. And if I live for Ajit Doval, I have this thing with what I eat, what I food, or what are my pleasures and others, that's all. When I do it for the family, my identity becomes a bigger one. When I live for my village, it's a still larger, this thing that I belong to such and such village. Or some people get to the caste identity, and then you say that you are a caste, this is. You are growing, but not growing big enough. Identify your identity with your nation. You become the part of a much larger family. Today, my identity is an Indian. I don't have my caste identity, I don't have my linguistic identity or my ethnic identity, it's an Indian identity. That's why I feel that is, I'm as big as India. Each Indian must feel that way. That is an attitudinal thing. Then, when you are looking at something dirty happening to your country, or somebody is cutting this thing of your railway seat, or you find that some dirt is, filth is this thing, you feel bad. You think somebody is dirtying your country. If somebody speaks against it, I don't have time, otherwise I would have told you the incidents. That once in a ship, Swami Vivekananda was going from Japan to the US, and he observed one thing, that there was one Indian who had taken the ship ticket but not of the food or something, and therefore he was only given some snacks.